All right, so my name is Camille Brooks, and today I'm going to be presenting to you the English language learners and why it is what it is today, and the laws and why they were created. Um, One of the first acts that I have found in the readings was the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. This act was made up of funds, policies, and procedures that targeted students from typically low-income families. So this was mainly for some help for immigrants or even students that couldn't attend school or get what they needed as far as education because of the lack of money from their family. This also created federal educational language policies for ELLs. Now, federal, it's state, so we're going to see that a lot. A lot of state laws or federal laws means all states are required to follow them. And so we're going to be going over, you're going to be seeing the federal a lot. And lastly, I did make a bullet point, but I don't want to go too much into detail about this last one. But all states are subject to federal education law to avoid any more neglect on children being forced into regular classrooms to sink or swim. And we're going to see that term come up here in a couple of slides. And I'll go more into detail on what that is. But basically, the overview of what you're seeing here on this act is pretty much all children getting equal opportunity. They're all getting what they need out of school. For the second act that I found was the Bilingual Educational Act of 1968. This was entered as a federal law, so again, there's that federal all states have to follow as Title VII. This provided grants to school districts and other eligible entities through a competitive grant process. Now, by the 2000s, this act led to the adoption of similar policies in 32 states that had statuses allowing home language instruction. Now, 30 years later, 30 some odd years, we're still kind of seeing this. So, kind of giving all districts, all schools flexibility and eligibility to go through these grant processes to provide for the students for their education. This by far is a very important trial that I found. This is the Lau versus Nichols. This was held in 1974. The Chinese American students at schools in the District of San Francisco were put into regular classrooms and were left to sink or swim. There's that term again that I said we'd come through, and I'll go into detail here in just a second, regardless of their proficiency in the English language. Now, the district argued that all students were given equal information and were treated equally. So they were basically saying, we gave you all books, we told them all the same thing. It's not our fault that they didn't learn the same way. That was the district's argument. Now, the defense, Justice William Douglas, stated that there is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, and curriculum. For students who do not understand English are effectively foreclosed from any meaningful education. So pretty much the defense of this argument is that, sure, you're giving them all the same books and you're teaching them all the same things, but what good does that do you if they don't understand English and if they're not are all learning the same thing? Not everybody knows what they should know based on a teacher's curriculum, based on a book. Now, there's what's equal in teaching the native to America kid that speaks English perfectly, and the Chinese American mom's an immigrant, but they speak Chinese at home. What's the equality in teaching them both the same thing whenever one student doesn't really understand as much as the fluent English speaker can? So things like there. It's how can we create these things? So pretty much from this statement itself, the district obviously lost that trial. Following this led to the creation of Lau remedies, which was codified into federal law through the Equal Educational Opportunities Act of 1974. So this one we're going to see the Equal Education Opportunities Act come up later on, and we'll go more into detail on what that is. But basically, the gist of it is that all kids, whether they're all in the same classroom, aren't going to learn the same things at the same exact pace and know all the same stuff that they should know. So pretty much we need to teach them what the curriculum is. Maybe we have to work harder on one student than another, or maybe a group of students versus a group of others. So we're going to see a lot of this Equal Education Opportunities Act come up in later trials and acts. The Castaneda versus Pickard of 1981. Raymondville School District fell short of meeting the requirements of the Equal Educational Opportunities Act, the EEOC. The creation of the three-pronged test, which states the ELL programs must be based on a sound educational theory. All programs must be 1, based on a sound educational theory, 2, implemented effectively with sufficient resources and personnel, and 3, evaluated to determine whether they are effective in helping students overcome language barriers. So they created this test because even though districts felt like they were following this Equal Education Opportunities Act as much as they could, they were still falling short. They were not meeting the needs of the federal law, which was, we need to make sure we're following this act for all students, all districts. So this three-pronged test you're going to see throughout the country, throughout every district is going to be using this, going through this to ensure that all kids are learning equally, and this act is being pursued. This one is personally my favorite act, the No Child Left Behind Act of 2002. This replaced Title VII Bilingual Education Act with Title III, Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. This act used the Limited English Proficient, the LEP, label depicting students from a deficit view. Bilingual programs are neither encouraged nor restricted. So basically what this one is saying, the Limited English Proficient immigrant students. At this time, early 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, for the past century, the United States has been made up by a lot of immigrants. And most children come from those immigrants, whether they're coming from another country or whether they're born here and their parents are born in another country. They don't all speak fluent English, and English is not all their first language. Now, some of them will speaks a little bit of English, but speak mostly Spanish or mostly Chinese or anything along those lines. And so pretty much no Child Left Behind, we're going to give them all the same. We're going to help them. This is what we're learning to do. And there's actually going to be a revision of this later on that I will talk about whenever we get to it. The Race to the Top, this was during Obama's, while Obama was president. He actually signed this act, which was, this was a part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. This included over $44 billion in stimulus funding for education. But it also provided over $44 billion in competitive grants for states to begin education reform efforts. In order to qualify states, states have to agree to adopt college and career readiness standards and develop high-quality assessments that were valid and reliable to all students, including ELLs and students with disabilities. So the college and career readiness, whether that's SATs, today known as STAR, we got the, I already forgot the name of it, but the different types of tests that we need to take. Now, this kind of helped districts and schools kind of invest into that and helping all the students. The educational standard, equal standard flexibility of 2011. The states that each state must propose an alternative accountability system to address key principles similar to those stated in the Race to the Top Act. States are required to revise their ELP standards to reflect academic language skills corresponding with the college and career readiness standards. This is the revision of the No Child Left Behind Act that I was talking about earlier. This is the Every Student Succeeds Act, 2015. A revision of the No Child Left Behind Act signed by President Obama maintains the standards and testing requirements of the No Child Left Behind. So it's all the same thing, but it offers greater flexibility, which is really good for schools. Gives us more opportunity, gives students more opportunity, more students opportunities to complete this college and career readiness test and kind of move forward with their life, get ready for their future. That's what schools are about. This act so far seems to be an improvement of the NCLB and affords states an opportunity to establish more flexible and reasonable expectations for ELLs and other students and their schools. Proposition 58, this is in 2016. This was titled English Proficiency, Multilingual Education. This emphasized that schools must ensure that students become proficient in English, authorize school districts to establish dual language immersion programs for both native and non-native English speakers. This also recognized the rights of parents of being able to decide which program are right for their child's needs. So this is again coming back from parents that are coming from other countries. They were born in other countries. Maybe their child came from over there, or their child was born as an American citizen. However, they want to say in what their child is doing in school, especially whenever it comes to dual language. They're not speaking very good English at home. English is not their first language. Maybe they're speaking Hindu, Spanish, French, whichever the case. Having this dual language and making it a priority that students become proficient in this English language. The LOOKED Act. This was in 2017. The governor of Massachusetts signed for, quotes, an act relative to language opportunity for our kids. The LOOK stands for Massachusetts Language Opportunity Coalition. This allows school district flexibility in choosing bilingual education or other language acquisition programs. So everything that we have seen from every act led up to where we are today and where we are in education and how it's formed in the ELLs and even students with disabilities. They all have these rights from this. And that is all for my presentation, but thank you for listening.